I think the last time you were on the show, the environment was very different. Prices were going up. It seemed like everybody wanted in. The fascinating thing I find about this year is that obviously the price decline has been pretty intense. And yet it seems like the news flow continues to suggest people still are excited about this space. From your vantage point, how are sort of like businesses and investors and institutions, have they had any sort of rethink at all?
They not so much a rethink, but looking at really where they should be focusing the products and offerings that they're looking at. And I think last time I was here, we'd just had a bit of a crash, and we've had another one, and what's happened?
Maybe a few since then.
Maybe one or two. And what the institutions are looking at is there are offerings that they can provide in this environment, but to whom should they be providing those offerings? A consumer, how they will manage a price fluctuation like this is going to be very different to an institution. So if anything, it's a rethink of where they should maybe be focusing such offerings and addressing that.
Well, what are you seeing? So in terms of the product or the type of strategies that were being pursued 6 months ago, how have those been changed?
So while there's a lot of this interest in cryptocurrencies has been driven from consumers, seeing this price movement, seeing this new exciting thing they want to get involved in.
Right.
For a institution to provide that to consumers, there is a risk when the consumer worries if the price starts moving, and there's obviously costs beyond just simply the legal place. The legal aspects. Being able to provide those similar products to institutions, working on lower risk areas such as, say, fund administration for crypto funds, is perhaps an easier way to start dipping their toe into the water.
The story last year was like, oh, there's this big wall of institutional money coming. The only thing that needs to happen is we got to get some regulatory clarity, and we have to deal with the custody so that institutions don't have to hold, private keys in their safes and stuff like that. And then it's all ready to come in. Is that still the view that if some things get solved in the sort of infrastructure side, that there's a lot of money on the sidelines?
There's certainly no question that custody and the regulatory aspect need some clarity, or at least need some work to build those out. They're complex issues. Saying that, once that gets involved, that doesn't necessarily mean we've got a big rush, because if you look at the big institutional investors, they need a business case, really an investment case, to put money into something like Bitcoin. And if you take the position that Bitcoin is some form of digital gold, gold behaves in a certain way, and we've seen how it behaves over hundreds of years. We don't really have that for Bitcoin. So there's still, while some of the institutional investors understand this space very well, there's still the real question of what's the real value proposition for us to go into this versus, say, a more traditional class.
From setting aside that for the moment, just say like on the custodial side, how different is it now in terms of that infrastructure having built out than it was, say, 6 months ago?
We're seeing institutions bring in technical capabilities to address this. There are a number of startups or maturing companies that are coming out with such institutional offerings. So we're getting there, and I imagine we're going to be seeing some more institutional announcements this year or the following with regards to offerings that they can provide in that space. But we're seeing some very exciting companies come out in the space, and some announcements that you've seen in the press of these institutional offerings.
It feels like there's some sort of like convergence happening where you have some of these crypto startups that have been around for a while, like a Circle or a Coinbase, they're starting to resemble proper financial entities and get more licenses and have more capabilities and offer more products. Meanwhile, the legacy entities are starting to move towards the crypto side, and it seems like there's some sort of convergence. Is there room for both of them to have a spot, or do you think there'll be consolidation, or what do you see? How do you think that's shaking?
I mean, in the financial system, there's this was a big thing with Bitcoin coming in, and the early days, people saying this is going to replace the banks. The thing is, no bank is the same, right? You've got custodians, you've got fund administrators, you've got asset managers, you've got each have a particular domain. And I don't see any reason why they can't coexist. In fact, we're seeing that now. And it will be a matter of different offerings, different customer segments, different targets in each case.
Within this whole space, there are like phases that go. So 2017 is like ICOs, and then you got like tokenization of securities, and people are really excited about the idea that maybe real world assets could somehow be represented on a blockchain. Then there's also just the sort of corporate enterprise blockchain stuff. What do you see people talking about right now in terms of the things that get them excited?
I mean, depending on who you talk to, all of those things, right? The area I'm focusing now on is on specifically on the cryptocurrency piece. Yeah. I think last time I was here, I was more broadly blockchain. Focusing on the cryptocurrency area, it is really on two sides. The startups and the newer companies are beginning that real kind of institutionalization, right? At bringing their systems and their business into that traditional world. And on the other side, the institutions seeing this new asset class, how can they be involved, and also how can they do that in the most risk-adjusted way? And
on the pure blockchain side, I'm sad to say that my inbox has not become any less bombarded with companies and their press releases about some new blockchain thing. I'm sort of hoping for that to quiet down. From your perspective, is anything real happening right now, or is it still just, press releases and experiments and consortiums?
No question, there is a lot of hype in the space. Yeah. We are seeing some things go. To production. We're seeing things go live, but there is the ratio of those two is certainly a lot of headlines. So we recommend our clients really understand the technology before going too far down that path.